Hi, my name is Baldwin Wiliams, a sophomore multi-platform production major at Morgan State University. The title of my project is Who Came Before the Black Panther? It's basically a look back into early black superhero movies and comparing them to the most recent hit, that is Black Panther. I hope you enjoy. Before the popular arrival of the movie Black Panther, black superhero movies weren't as mainstream. I'm a huge fan of comic books, and my love for Black Panther was at an all-time high. I researched back to see if there was any black superhero movies that existed before Black Panther, and my research provided that answer. The first black superhero movie was Spawn in 1997, and Blade, which followed in 1998, as being the second black superhero movie. So to get a more personal perspective of black superheroes in cinema, I went to Dr. Jason Johnson to give me a look back on black superhero movies in cinema.
It was different. I mean, I was a kid, but I remember I was in school, and Blade was amazing. Blade was life-altering, and the reason why is because not only did you have a black superhero, but the vampire genre was an incredibly white and often female-targeted genre in the 90s. It was all Anne Rice. It was Diaries of a Vampire. It was all about romance and sort of homoerotic relationships between the vampire and the person that they turned. And so to see that genre, which was targeted at teenage girls and women, turned into not only something for men, but also something for black men, was amazing. Because also Wesley Snipes brought his own particular flavor to it. Blade, if you look at Blade in the 1970s, he was a guy with some big goggles and a green jacket, and he ran around with wooden stakes. The Blade that Wesley Snipes created, I mean, he had the, he had the haircut, he had the short high top fade, he talked smack to people, he did his own stunts. So it was empowering in a way. And then even his love interest, who he could not consummate a relationship with for various reasons, even his love interest, N'Bushe Wright, was this amazing, gorgeous black woman. And that's just not something that you often saw in the 90s. I had different feelings about Spawn because I read the Spawn comic book. So I didn't find the movie as impressive. Michael Jai White, I didn't think was a good lead. I didn't like the fact that Terry Fitzgerald, who played the main character's best friend. In the movie Spawn, the main guy dies, he goes to hell, he comes back with these hellacious superpowers. His wife ends up marrying his best friend. They changed his best friend into a white guy, and I thought that was really annoying. Terry Fitzgerald is a black man. All the characters in Spawn are black, except for the villains. And for the purposes of this movie, they turned him into a white guy. And I remember reading Todd McFarlane at the time in a letter section of the comic. He was asked, why did you change Terry Fitzgerald? And he said, I fought it, but basically the networks and the studios said, if you put everybody black in this movie, it'll be a black film and it won't be successful and we won't give you the funding. That's a really good question. I didn't have the expectations for Blade and Spawn that I have with Black Panther. I didn't have the relationship with Blade and Spawn that I have with Black Panther. Blade had not been a comic character except maybe in the Midnight Suns comics, but Blade hadn't really been a star of his own book in years. I mean, like Blade was invented in the 70s. I don't remember him. I didn't know who he was. In fact, Blade was so obscure in Marvel Comics that a lot of people didn't even know it was based on a comic book when the movie came out, right? Spawn, I loved the comic, but again, I didn't think the special effects were that great, and I didn't expect much. Now, because of the special effects available and Ryan Coogler was directing, I went into Black Panther thinking, wow, this may actually be a film that is written and directed and sort of put together in a way that would appeal to me specifically as an African-American consumer. And it did. I mean, it was not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination, but the writing and the dialogue and the action were fantastic. And I was emotional the first time that I saw it. I literally was kind of choked up when I saw the film, and that does not happen to me very often. And even though, again, I'd say it's probably the second or third, maybe tied for second, one to be Marvel movie, because of some of the structural things about action that they still haven't mastered. For emotional resonance sake, I've never seen anything like it. I've never, ever in my life watched a superhero film that felt like it was speaking to me. And it wasn't until seeing Black Panther that I realized, as much as I say like Captain America Civil War, as much as I might have liked the original Spider-Man movie, I watched those things from a distance because I was watching a bunch of white people have adventures that white people have. And that's the role of African American comic fans often, where we can enjoy these things, but there's always a sense of detachment. We aren't Peter Parker. We aren't Tony Stark. There's a way that those men navigate the world which would never be applicable to a black person. But Black Panther was different. There was a navigation of the world that we could see, that we could embrace, that we could identify with the added fantasy of strength and agency. And that's one of the reasons, I'll just say this quickly, it's one of the reasons why superhero comics and those genres really appeal to the black community, because what group of people in this country would greater enjoy the freedom and agency and power that comes with being able to do whatever they want and create justice on their own when the system itself fails them? Superman is a white guy who grew up in Kansas. The world was going to be fine for him, but it's very different for Luke Cage. It's very different for Static Shock. It's very different for Jefferson Pierce, who's Black Lightning. And that's the thing that resonates with us.